So, you think you want to give up drawing? Well, actually, I'm not here to say, don't do it. We're all free to choose to do whatever we want. But here are 5 thoughts that I hope will help you navigate this situation to get to the place that's going to best suit you. And that whatever you end up doing, it will be an easier and a guilt-free decision. And so the first point is, it's perfectly okay to not draw. There's no reason why it's an activity that we have to do. Sometimes these things can take on a life of their own in our mind that complicates what could be a very simple decision. Drawing is not doing anything for me at this point. Well, I can let it go. I can't do everything all the time anyway. I am who I am, and that doesn't change whether I'm drawing or not. And the really important thing is not to carry any sense of somehow I have failed because I'm not going to continue drawing. Let's separate this decision from any moral judgment or any self-criticism. Now, I'm free to move on with that time and energy and discover what else there is in life that I might want to engage with. But perhaps the drawing itself hasn't been the problem. Perhaps the frustration is despite really wanting to sit down and draw, and perhaps some encouraging results when I've managed to do it, but that my experience has been that over and over I simply haven't had time to sit down and draw, to put the commitment in to learning this new skill. So perhaps it's the wrong time of my life for me to learn to do this, or at least to learn to do it in the way I'm thinking, expecting that it's going to look. Maybe I've got too many family commitments. Maybe I'm looking after lots of children or elderly parents, or at my work I have responsibilities at this point in my career that mean I don't have time at home that I otherwise would have had, or I don't have the energy when I am at home, or I'm simply not home enough, or I'm grappling with some sort of chronic illness or something that means I just can't fit it into my life. And if the drawing frustration comes from this area for you, here are 3 quick little sub-points that may be helpful. And the first is that this is life, and at different seasons in life, we have commitments in some areas, or we have things that impact us for some time, or we have things that can impact us that aren't going to be the case in the future. So sometimes we do need to shuffle our dreams for more realistic seasons. Second thought is, maybe rather than give up on drawing completely, I can cut back on my expectations for what drawing for me now at this point means. Possibly I can just do a little bit of doodling at odd times with architectural motifs rather than draw grand pictures of palaces and cathedrals. And that might be all I'm able to do right now, but it will keep me connected, and I'm sure will bear benefits when a more amenable season of my life comes round. And finally, even if now isn't the time to learn to draw, I can keep thinking about it. I spent 30 years not painting, but thinking about it almost every day in things I saw, thinking, how would you try and paint that? And then when I saw paintings, I'd look at them and I'd think, oh, how have they captured these sorts of images, conditions, and so forth? And I've been able to compare the paintings I've seen with the real life situations that were similar that I'd seen, and start to learn, in effect, even though I couldn't pick up a paintbrush. When I did finally pick up a paintbrush, I was amazed at how much I could identify advantage from all of that thinking when I, for different reasons, wasn't able to actually paint. So keep thinking about drawing. Keep seeing things you'd like to draw. Keep looking at drawings that inspire you and make you want to think, how have they achieved these effects? Because when the seasons change and there is an opportunity to learn, you will leapfrog where you would have started from with all of this, in effect, prior knowledge that you've built up when you weren't able to actually pick up a pen. My third point is, if you've been struggling to draw, perhaps the problem isn't so much your drawing or your capacity for drawing, but it's your learning. Perhaps the way you've approached learning to draw perhaps simply doesn't work well as a learning pathway for where you want to end up, or perhaps it's not a good connection with the way you individually learn any skill. Because we need to remember that learning any skill in itself is a skill. A simple example perhaps is I want to learn to draw, and I think that copying other drawings is a good place to start. And in lots of ways, that's understandable why that would be thought to be the case. But in practice, this teaches me to copy, which while it's a skill, it's by and large a different skill to the skill of creating my own drawings. And therefore I'm not learning the skills I need to do the thing I'm thinking I'm learning to do. And then I get frustrated because I go to draw something originally from a photo or from a scene in front of me and I don't even know where to start. And I think it's because I can't draw, when in fact the problem is, for all the pen on paper I've done copying drawings, I haven't realized that I haven't been learning the skills I need to do the drawing that I'm wanting to draw. Or perhaps the teaching material I'm using is simply too advanced for where I'm starting, and I don't know enough at the start to realize that. And so I'm getting discouraged by producing works that, well, I'm not very impressed with. It's not that I can't get to that place, but that's not the right starting place for me. So perhaps the problem is not really my drawing, but my learning pathway. And that's where I need to make some adjustments so that I can learn the skills I want to learn to draw the way I want to draw. This fourth consideration is, well, is the real issue simply that I didn't understand, I didn't appreciate the amount of work learning to draw was going to be? I somehow thought that because I drew as a kid and because I doodle on scraps of paper a lot, that somehow learning to draw would be as easy and natural, would flow in the same way that those drawing experiences did. And what I've discovered is it doesn't. That when I'm trying to learn to draw seriously as an adult, it actually is just as taxing. It requires as much effort, attention, consistency as learning any skill, whether it's a foreign language or a musical instrument or a sport. That the consistent effort required is very demanding, and I wasn't ready for that, and I'm still trying not to have to do that, or I don't have time to do it. And again, that's okay. I wasn't aware of what I was taking on, but now I am aware. I need to seriously consider, is it that I need to put that effort in, or have I made the wrong choice with how I'm using my time in trying to learn to draw? And there's something else that I could do that would be more satisfying for me because it doesn't require effort that I don't want to have to put in. Again, there's no judgment. I don't have to learn to draw. It's simply making the best choice to get the outcome that'll be most satisfying for me. And this final consideration is this really about drawing, or is this really about something else? Because was my wanting to learn to draw really about drawing, or was that really about something else? And what I'm finding is that the drawing experience isn't meeting the something else need or desire that I had. Perhaps I thought I'd feel better about myself if I could draw for some reason. Other people would feel better about myself if I could draw. And well, I'm finding out that's not really the case. Well, the issue isn't the drawing, the issue is how I feel about myself. And maybe that's what I should be looking into rather than learning how to draw. Perhaps I thought that successful drawing would become a vehicle for successful social media engagement. I want to have a big Instagram channel or TikTok or whatever. And I thought that drawing might be a means of doing that. And what I'm finding is it's not. And because my enthusiasm was never really about the drawing, I can't sustain it for its own sake. And again, understanding what's happening is really important, because now I can make a decision whether it's worth persevering with drawing for the sake of my social media, or whether that's the issue I need to address, or whether if social media success is something I really want to put time and effort into, that a context other than drawing might be a better match for who I am. Perhaps I've been really keen to make some money to establish some sort of side hustle, and I thought drawing might be a good means of doing that. I could engage then with all these print-on-demand businesses. I could have shops in Etsy or eBay or other places, and I could create a nice little earner on the side. And perhaps I'm learning that's harder than I thought. Perhaps I'm learning it's more competitive than I thought. Perhaps I'm learning it's harder to do designs and drawings that are suited for this and will be popular enough and catch the trends, and not to mention initial outlays. Whatever else is now concerned with this side hustle, it's way beyond what I thought at the start. It's more difficult to do, and it doesn't seem to produce the same income I thought it would as easily as I hoped it would. And so now I'm losing enthusiasm. Again, it's not the drawing, but because the drawing was a means to an end, that end isn't happening as well as I thought. And so I'm considering now whether I should be bothered with the means, with the drawing. And, well, it's a decision I need to think about and make, but it's easier to do it if I'm aware of what the issues really are. Or maybe I started drawing because someone significant in my life has been telling me I'm really talented and nagging me to give it a go. And, well, I didn't really want to, but I did, I have, and regardless of the result of my drawing, I still just don't want to do it. Well, I'd say that's probably not a great reason to be doing it. We should be free to make our own choices here. So look, if you're in a position where you're thinking drawing is not giving me what I'd hoped it would give me, or it's causing issues or frustrations that are difficult to live with, then maybe this isn't something you should be doing, or maybe it's not the right time, or maybe you need to change what you're doing, how you're doing it, so that the results are different. But whichever way it goes for you, I hope these thoughts have been helpful in navigating what can be a bit of a tricky period to be in. And remember, we can't really make the wrong decision here. If you keep drawing now and in the future you wish you hadn't, well, you can always give it up in the future. But if you give it up now and in the future have regrets, well, you can always take it up again a little wiser and perhaps better equipped to navigate the process of learning to draw to get better results in the future. So, g'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Whatever you're doing right now and however it's working out and whatever decisions you make, I hope you navigate it well and have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.